So I know a lot of actors don't really understand like the main difference between an agent and a manager. I mean, they obviously know what the difference is, but like, what is like the main differences that you can tell us?
So obviously there's, a ton of overlap, and some people will tell you it's basically the same thing. It's not. There are small but very significant differences. I think to me, a lot of people will say that the biggest difference is that a manager can produce while an agent legally cannot. Which means, I can, if I have a literary client or a talent client and I help attach them to a piece of material, and help put the project together and package it, I can be an executive producer on it, or another producer title. But I would say that really the biggest difference to me in terms of what a manager should be doing versus, what an agent does is, I think when you look at an agent's client list versus a manager's client list on IMDb, if each of them is doing their job right, in an agency, especially a major agency, you're probably going to see an agent with a minimum of 50, more likely 75, or even, 100 clients. I don't think, a manager's client list should ever really top, 30 clients. It's about having a smaller roster who you build and work with on a more personal, intimate level, and really devote yourself to these people. You're their manager. Their careers are really really in your hands. So I think, to me at least, the biggest difference between being a manager and agent is devoting more additional time to each client that you have and building a more personal, intimate relationship.
Is there anything like an agent can do that you can't, or I guess more vice versa?
Technically, agents are the only ones who are allowed to negotiate deals, but it still happens. Managers still negotiate deals.
Yeah.
But technically, the difference is that managers can negotiate deals and agents can produce. Technically.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, we had the whole debate over packaging, which was sort of, agents couldn't be producers on it, but they could be packaging agent, and agencies could take fees, etc. But yeah, I'd say those are the main differences to me.
Uh, so like for, I guess, young actors or actors maybe just starting out, is there a benefit to having a manager? I was always told, like, when in some acting classes, that you don't really need a manager until you have a career to manage.
Yeah, I mean, I think oftentimes people will have a manager before an agent just because I think managers tend to be a little bit slightly more willing to sort of take a risk on someone they believe in at a slightly earlier stage in their careers. Agents are sort of heat-seeking missiles to a degree, if you know what I mean. Like, there's a lot of pressure from, the top down because I've worked at a major agency before and I've worked at management companies, and there's sort of a lot of pressure from the top down to, especially when you're a young agent, to be covering your overhead and to be bringing in money. So you're not necessarily looking for the next young star that you still need to break, who hasn't had their first major recurring role or their first guest star even. What you're looking for is someone who's already consistently working, who ideally you're trying to take to the next level. I think being a manager allows you to take a little bit more risk because, I don't know, at least to me, and I'm sure it's the same for agents as well, but there's a certain pride in taking someone from the very beginning to the top of the mountaintop.
It's just kind of curious for me, how did you get your start? Like, where are you from, and when did all this start for you?
So I'm from Long Island, New York. I guess the real answer to how I got my start was when I was a junior in college. I got started on working on this book project as a writer, and me and one of my best friends from school were writing it together, and it was a comedy book, and we put out like an excerpt, and it got some heat. An agent from a major agency approached us and said, "Hey, I kind of digging what you're doing. I want to sign you guys. Let's sell this book." And I couldn't believe how my luck. I was like, wow, this is so easy. And we had pitches with all the major publishing houses, And I remember my agent at the time was like, none of them, like the last 10 clients I've signed have all gotten $200,000 plus book advances. And I was already starting to look up how much, how much a Tesla and how much a Ferrari costs, because I had this money in my head. And of course, we didn't end up selling the book to anyone, and we got a lot of passes. And I sort of realized through the end of it, two things. One, I don't actually like writing very much. There's a lot of pressure I was putting on myself, and it was a lot of stress. And two, I really did like what my agent did for me. I liked how there was sort of this sort of Sherpa through the creative process from concept to completion for my creative project. And I saw that and I was like, all right, I did some research and I was like, all right, books seem to be sort of a dying medium. And book to film has never been hotter, so maybe I was wrong. But I decided that I wanted to work in film and television as a manager or an agent. So I started working for APA out of college. I liked it a lot. I made some incredible relationships, but I was an assistant there, and honestly, I was just working under an absolutely brutal agent that we seemed to be butting heads on everything. And I needed to make an escape, and I left and I worked for another manager named Geyer Kaczynski, who has an incredible client list. He works with like Angelina Jolie and Nicole Kidman, and I learned a lot working for Geyer. We weren't necessarily a personality fit, and there wasn't really room to grow. So I was trying to find the right space for me, a company that I knew would be the right next step for me. And thankfully, I got in touch with Erwin Moore, who's the CEO of More Medavoy, and we just clicked from day one. And I've been working for him ever since, first as an assistant, then as the coordinator of the company. And then back in October, I got promoted to manager over here. And yeah, we're doing some great things over here. So it's been a great journey.
Nice. I'm sure you've seen the movie Swimming with Sharks.
Yeah, of course.
Was your first job kind of like that?
Yeah, I would say
Probably didn't kill the guy, but
I actually love that movie.
It's great.
Rest in peace, Kevin Spacey's career. But you looked very solemn when I said that. You're like, oh man, what a great actor. Disappointing. But yeah, I love that movie. I actually just watched the Roku. It's on Roku now. It was originally supposed to be Quibi, the reboot with Kiernan Shipka and Diane Kruger.
Oh, right. Oh yeah, I've heard it. Yeah, I haven't seen that.
Very, very entertaining. I mean, I don't think it's going to be it's not in the awards conversation or anything, but very fun, entertaining watch.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, a little bit. I definitely had some, some classic Hollywood, like welcome to Hollywood moments for working for my first boss. One of them I remember, it was before the Christmas holidays, and when a client had sent a thing of cupcakes to my boss and her assistant, and she walked, and this was like my second day working for her, and she walked around and handed every assistant a cupcake, and then stopped in front of me, and there was one cupcake left, and she looks at me and she goes, Eric, you've been screwing up my day all day, and then spikes the cupcake in the garbage can and sachets out of the office. And I was like, oh
shit. Nice. So how do you actually find actors that you want to work with?
So it's a combination of things, between referrals from agents that I trust. Sometimes you'll see, this is a little more rare, but you'll see someone in a short film that you really respond to, or on a TV show or a movie, and I'll reach out to their agent, or I'll try to get in touch with them directly if I don't, if they don't have an agent yet. And I think at least at the entry level for the really developmental actors, the best piece of advice that I can sort of take from that is say yes to everything. Do as many, if you're not working yet professionally and you're trying to sort of build yourself up, get as much material for your reel and for your footage as you possibly can. Say yes to every student film, every opportunity to put yourself on camera and get a chance to show your skills. Do it. One of our really awesome clients over here, an actor by the name of Gavin Leatherwood, who Gavin starred in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina opposite Kiernan Shipka, and he just starred in Sex Lives of College Girls for HBO. And Steven, one of my colleagues, actually found him in, he was acting opposite someone who had sent like a raw like query to Steven saying, hey, check out my materials. And Gavin was in one of the scenes with the actor who had sent the material. And Steven was like, holy crap, this guy's really good. And found a way to get in touch with Gavin. And that was because Gavin had done a short film and he was in the back of some other actor's reel. Like, it's crazy how stuff like that happens. But if you're putting yourself out there and you're you're doing short films and you're just working and doing everything you can, there's always a chance that happens, and you're strengthening up your materials to to send around and advance your position in the business.
And you kind of mentioned it, but so what's kind of the trend in like demo reels and clips that you want to see on Actors Access, or you want actors to post on Actors Access? Like, do you guys prefer like a 2 to 3 minute reel or shorter with like different clips showing off like range of an actor, or do you prefer clips, individual clips of a certain character type that you can submit for whatever comes up?
I mean, I think shorter is always better. You don't want to send, like a 14-minute reel. That's a massive, time commitment, especially if you don't really know the person that well. You want them to just get in, get out, see it, know what you have. And
my 14 reel is awesome. I'm brilliant. Don't you understand? Damn it, Harry.
Yeah, that's what everyone thinks. But
yeah.
but yeah, I think it does help to show range. Honestly, I've asked a bunch of casting directors and other managers and agents their thoughts on sort of what the best reel is, and how to really showcase yourself, and everyone gives a different answer. But to me, I mean, yes, it's helpful to show off range, but within limits, and know your strengths. Like if you're a character actor, if you're like a if you're a character actor, if you're like you're like a Margot Martindale, or know your strengths, show off great character work. Don't show a clip of you that's your short film that you did, that's you trying to be a Marvel superhero. Like, I'd rather see 3 minutes of someone leaning into their strengths and really showing what they can do, rather than 1 minute of comedy that they feel obliged to have in there, 1 minute of drama, and 1 minute of action. I think it's really important to know your strengths and know what you're good at, and lean into that. And ask people, ask your friends, ask your colleagues in your acting class, figure out what you're good at, and lean into that. And because that's what's going to separate you, not because you can do 60 million things, it's because you can do one thing really well.
What about, kind of along those lines, what about like headshots? Do you just one headshot to encompass everything, or a couple different ones for like, here's my doctor pose?
Yeah, I think of a few different headshots. Yeah, not, in my opinion, I mean, I'm never really choosing someone based off of a headshot. Obviously, the footage is much more important, but obviously to catch your eye, I think there has to be something about it that just, sort of, esoteric, but something that captures your personality. It can't be like, those, like, I don't know if you have kids, but those like 8th grade photographer class picture type thing with the blue background and everyone's making the same pose. Yeah. And it's like, I feel like I see a lot of headshots like that, and it's just like, people, like, they look good, like their their makeup's done and they're making a good, they're giving their best model face or whatever, but like there's no personality to it. I feel like my favorite headshots of all our clients are something that, like, you can look at it and there's just like, somehow you get a better idea of who they are as a person in some slight way. And that's not because they're wearing scrubs pretending to be a doctor. It's just because, I don't know, there's something about it that's unique, and that's them, that's authentic.
Yes, but I mean, so it kind of sounds like one headshot can kind of do like, a whole certain amount of things, because I mean, right now I just got some new headshots and I'm trying to like whittle them down, and I think I'm just going to go with like 1 or 2, and
it definitely can, when you when you're like looking for representation and you're in that stage. I think maybe once you start to take off a little more and you have representation and you're starting to you're sort of starting to build yourself up. I think maybe having two or three might be helpful. Like, here's one where they're in more tight clothing where they look muscular, and here's one where they're sort of just being a little goofy, or you definitely don't have 10, no need to have 15 different headshots with every different mood and character, but a couple can be helpful.
Yeah. So just like one more question, is there any sort of other sort of words of wisdom you can send along?
I think just sort of the core of what we've been touching on in this interview is sort of is authenticity. Don't try to don't try to be Christian Bale. Figure out who you are and what your strengths are, and lean into that. Really, really lean into that. I also think something that one of our co-founders, Brian Medavoy, said the other day that I thought was really smart is he said, if you're an actor and you want this to be your job, you gotta treat it like a job. Like, you're competing with so many people who may just look just like you or may sound just like you, and you gotta differentiate yourself. And that means treat it like a job. 2-3 hours a day, read it, do practice monologues, do find self tapes that you can do online, that even if you haven't been sent them, really practice your craft and devote time to it if you want to do it for a living, and treat it like one, I guess.